Hare Krishna, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, Hari Bol. My Dandavat pranams to everybody, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. So today is Monday, the 8th of December, 2025. A most auspicious day today. It's the Tirabhav of our most beloved Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. So I'll offer some Pushpanjali at the beginning, and then we'll continue with our reading of the Madhya-lila, chapter 1, in our Caitanya Caritamrta. Agyan timirandasya gyananjala shalakaya chakshu unmilitam jena tasmai shri gurave namaha. Gurave Gauda Chandraya Radhikaya Tiralaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha. Shri Caitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Shwa Padantikam. Priya Surupe, Dayata Surupe, Prema Surupe, Sahajabi Rupe, Nijana Rupe, Prabhuveka Rupe, Tatana Rupe, Swabala Surupe. Anapita chirim chirat kurana vartinokalo samarapaitam unnata ujvala rasam swabhakti shriyam hari purata sundarat dikatamba sadipita sada hridare kandare swadatu vasachinandanaha yam pravajantamanapethyam apetikriyam dvaipaino viraha katara ajuhava putreti tam matayotaravo vinidustam sarvutam hridim munimanatoshmi Bhaktya vihina aparada lakshay shiptascha karmadi taranga madhye kripa maitvam sharanam prapana brinde namaste charanarvindam bhajami radham aravinda netram smarami radham madhurashmitasyam vadami radham karuna bharadram tato mamanasti katina kapi Tavaivasmi najivami tvaivina iti vignaya radhe tvam naimam charanantikam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nitya-lila Pravishta Om, Asto Tarasara Shishimad, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again, millions and millions of times unto the lotus feet of our dearmost Srila Nitya-lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And again, I'm offering my full Sastang Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of our dearmost Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord. My Dandavat pranams to all of you. Avancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubevacha patitanam pavnibhyo vaishnavebhyo namaha. So, today, the Tirabhav of this most exalted, stalwart personality, a ray of Vishnu. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was calling for a ray of Vishnu. Bhaktivinoda Thakur had written so many scriptures. He had written the whole blueprint for the future organizing of the devotional current, this Bhagirat Dhara, this current of the conceptions of Sri Bhagavan himself. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he put this into the world, these conceptions, through so many bhajans that he wrote, so many scriptures that he wrote, so many documents and essays that he gave in his life. But he needed this ray of Vishnu for posterity, to carry it forward into the world. What was the point of doing all this unless there was some stalwart personality who was going to carry through? It's not just a single lifetime that was needed to plant and nourish this conception of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to revitalize it. It had already been planted by by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself and carried through by Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. But at Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, after Baladev Vidyabhushan, it slowed because the Babajis were just performing their internal bhajan, and there was no prominent preacher. So for 100 years it was dark, the current of these conceptions of the Gaudiya line. And we know Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he again erected this edifice of the Gaudiya line, but someone had to carry it forward into the future. And that person, of course, was his beloved son, Srila Bimala Prasad, who later became Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. And he is responsible for establishing 64 mutts throughout India, for establishing the program that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur had chalked out to inundate the whole world with this Gaudiya conception. This was his mission, and we know he sat down after the departure of his father and his beloved Gurudev and Jagannath Das Babaji. These three personalities left 3 years in a row, and then finally in about 1914, 1915, he sat down to chant 1 billion names. And while he was immersed in that brat, then he had a vision of the Panchatattva. They appeared to him and directed him clearly on what his mission in this world was to be, to establish this Gaudiya line. So he was alone, completely alone. And from basically having nothing materially, he ultimately erected so many mutts throughout India by the potency of Sachinandan Gaurahari, because of the power and intensity of his own personal devotion. His devotion was so attracting to Krishna and Mahaprabhu, and of course he's a Nitya Siddhaparika, he's Naini Mani Manjari. This is his eternal identity. So all the supporting forces in the form of exceptional personalities came to his flag when he started his preaching in Bagbazar in Calcutta, when he began that temple there, that first mutt in Calcutta. And Mahaprabhu sent him so many glorious, stalwart personalities to carry and support this mission through. But one feature of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati that I was contemplating today is his utter fearlessness in the face of so much opposition, because Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was speaking and acting on the absolute truthful platform, which is very intimidating for those who are engrossed in the material conceptions of life, those who believe and want to have some material happiness and joy, which is practically 99.9% of the population. So therefore, when the absolute truth strides through with illuminating light of knowledge, the jackals and the wolves who are supporting those misconceptions of atheism and Mayavadism became very aggressive towards Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. We know the pastime in Navadvip when he was performing a glorious prikrama with more than 5,000 pilgrims, and so many others were there at the same time. And then the Smarta Brahmins, who were vehemently opposed to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's teachings because their donations had reduced when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was able to clearly expose their cheating ways. They weren't giving the true conception. They were giving part patched up ideas of moksha, etc. Dharma, artha, karma, moksha. This is not the principal Yuga Dharma of this age. So this Yuga Dharma of the age, which is inaugurated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu,
really cuts through these traditional methods of meditating, etc., on mukti, or on the Brahman, to attain the Brahman. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati met with so much opposition, and during this parikrama, they tried to kill him. A huge crowd of young men, they attacked the whole party with the intention of actually killing him. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati didn't flinch at all. And by the mercy of his great disciple, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, he exchanged cloth with him, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati experienced no trouble, no problem at all. And actually, afterwards we know that he glorified this event as spreading the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because it would be publicized throughout the newspapers, etc., and the media at that time, and then it would get the sort of publicity that it would never have had unless this attack had taken place. So in every instance, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he saw the Lord's hand in all of his moves, and by that exemplary faith that he was able to demonstrate, he was able to contend with any sort of opposition. So throughout his life, he had so much opposition to his establishing this Gaudiya Math. It wasn't a popular math. It wasn't a popular conception, rather. So he did it with great vigor, but at a comparatively early age, he was about 64 years old when he left this world. And he left, and we're glorifying that Tirabhav today on his departure. And he had spent his energy defeating Mayavadism. And he was regretful at one point, or he was voicing some regret that he hadn't significantly established the Braja Prem. He'd had to cut so many jungles first that were prominent in the world at that time, just as our Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada had to do the same thing. Nevertheless, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he spoke so much on the higher conceptions of life. What is the nature of Sri Radhika's mood in Swadhina Bhartika, her mood of controlling Krishna? He spoke these conceptions strongly because many of his disciples, his senior sannyasis, etc., they caught this current of ras, and they carried this current of ras through, which has actually come down to us today through our beloved Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, through Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. And the same quality of absolute fearlessness is present in the disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. We see the example of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada coming to the West as an old man in his early 70s, I think 69, 70 years old. So fearlessly preaching this conception of his most fearless Gurudev. And then Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj carrying that current through. And my Gurudev also meeting with so much opposition to the more esoteric teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this fearless quality we see, of course, coming from their deep, absolute, utter conviction, not utter conviction, knowledge, knowing, realization of Krishna's presence in every instant. So there's no need for the Vaishnavas to ever be fearful. The expression Bhayam dvitiya biniveshitam syat isatu patasya riparayo shmiti. This is saying that fear arises from material absorption. So of course these personalities we're describing were far away from any sort of connection with material absorption or matter. So therefore they were utterly, utterly fearless in the face of this material energy, which dwarfs when the magnificence of the spiritual, the superior, the antaranga energy shines brightly. So this Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, we're gloriously celebrating today, and we're expressing our great gratitude for his munificence, his courage in the face of so much opposition, and his success in planting, replanting, or nourishing the seeds and the tree of devotion that had already been planted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Rupa Goswami, these conceptions. He only preached the conceptions of Rupa and Raghunath. So this is very wonderful to remember all the different pastimes of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And one point that he had said, and this is pertinent to our reading today, we're going to come to our reading of Madhya-lila in a second, but Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he said, if all the scriptures, all the Vedas, everything was actually inundated by a pralaya in the ocean, if simply the Caitanya Caritamrta was saved, then everything would be saved. Everything is within this epic granta, this epic edition of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj's description of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the conceptions that are necessary to go forward at this particular time in history. So with this Caitanya Caritamrta, everything is covered. And as we are reading through this Caitanya Caritamrta, we see so many times, like today for example, there's a lengthy purport by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati himself. He was so erudite, he was such a clear visionary that could elucidate the absolute truth with such clarity and vigor. And because it was the absolute truth, it would penetrate the hearts of those sincere theists who wanted the truth. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So now we're coming back to our reading of Caitanya Caritamrta into the Madhya-lila. And we've been describing through the initial, we gave an overview of Mahaprabhu's time pieces, like 24 years in Navadvip, and then he takes sannyas in 1510, and then he travels in India for 6 years, and then he returns to, he tries to go at that time to Vrindavan, but he meets Sanatana Goswami just north of Ramkeli, who says you shouldn't go to Vrindavan with a huge crowd like a magician. So Mahaprabhu, he listens to Sanatana Goswami Pad and returns to Puri, and he stays there for a few months, and then he goes through the Jharikanda forest to Varanasi, and then on to Prayag, and then on to Vrindavan, where he spends about 10 days in Vrindavan. And then he returns from Vrindavan to Prayag. And in that return journey in Prayag, that's where he meets Rupa and Anupam. And then he sends both of them to Vrindavan. It seems our YouTube has just become frozen for a moment. We'll see if it, oh, now it's back. Then after he sent Rupa and Anupam to Vrindavan, then he continues his journey to Varanasi, which is quite close to Prayag. And then he meets Sanatana Goswami, who have escaped from the jail of the Nawab Hussain in Bengal. And then he instructs Sanatana Goswami for 2 months in the house of Tapana Mishra and Chandrasekhar in Varanasi. And these are his emissaries, these are his ambassadors to spread his mission. So he empowers both of these brothers to propagate the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when he has sent both of them to Vrindavan, then he returns himself with Balabhata Bhattacharya through the Jharikanda forest and back to Puri, where he spends the next 18 years of his life. So he spends 24 years of his life in Navadvip as Nimai Pandit, and 24 years in the renounced order. So that's 48 years. So he takes the renounced order in 1510, and he leaves this world in 1534. So this is what Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj has been describing to date in this Madhya-lila. He's been giving us the time frames. And we've reached the point where he's describing the Rath Yatra festival, And he's been describing this verse, this extraordinary verse that Mahaprabhu is chanting, which is somewhat of a mundane verse, that he wants to go to the bank of the Reva, under the Vatasi tree, and enjoy these nights again. He's singing this, but no one can really understand that mood, what he's expressing in front of Lord Jagannath. Swarup Damodar can understand, and this wonderful personality of Srila Rupa Goswami can understand. So this is the place that we're up to and describing. And Rupa Goswami has written that verse, that corresponding verse, to the one that Mahaprabhu...
YouTube is working?
It's working now, yeah. It did stop, but now it's working again. Okay. Yes, he speaks this beautiful verse, Priya Saham. What's that verse? Priya Soyam Krishna Sahachari Kuru Kshetra Militas. He responds, Rupa Goswami writes this verse, which is corresponding to the verse that Mahaprabhu, to his heart, to Mahaprabhu's heart. And Rupa Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam, he knows the inner intention of Mahaprabhu's heart. So he writes this corresponding verse, describing that this was spoken by Radharani, because the previous verse that Mahaprabhu was singing was being spoken by the lover of her beloved. And here, this verse that Rupa Goswami writes in parallel, a reflection of the verse that Mahaprabhu was chanting, is spoken by Radharani directly. My dear friend, now I have met my very old and dear friend Krishna on this field of Kurukshetra. We're in Kurukshetra now. This is the description of the Rath Yatra festival. This is the heart of the Rath Yatra festival. This is the mood we described this last time, where the gopis have met with Krishna in Kurukshetra, and they feel uncomfortable amidst all the armies and elephants and chariots, etc., that Krishna is with, and all his generals and wives. His 16,000 wives are also there. Draupadi is there. And they want to bring him back to the beautiful, sweet Madhurya Ras of Vrindavan Dham, the natural beauty of Vrindavan Dham, on the chariot of their hearts. So this actually is the essence, the sar, the bhakti sar of this Rath Yatra festival. So Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj is giving us this directly in this Madhya-lila. He's showing us directly. This is the nature, in fact, of the Rath Yatra festival. And then it's describing this atmosphere of Vrindavan, and it's finally saying that the subject of his thoughts, the subject of Mahaprabhu's thoughts, was Srimati Radharani. Now he's in Radha Bhav. Now he's met Rai Ramananda on the bank of the Godavari. This is a very important point to appreciate. When he's in Navadvip Dham, he has that potential to fully taste Sakhi Bhav, because he's carrying the Bhav and Kanti of Sri Radhika, but it doesn't overtly manifest in Navadvip. To some extent, it begins during the Ras Lila pastimes at Srivasangam. But when he comes to the association of Ramananda Rai, Vishaka, who's the dearmost Sakhi of Sri Radhika, by that association, that Sakhi Bhav that is dormant within his consciousness rises very prominently. So now he has that Bhav to taste fully Radha Bhav, which is his intention. This is why he has appeared. Prem Ras Niryase, Korite Yaswata. He's appeared to taste that prem of Sri Radhika for Krishna. That love that Sri Radhika has for Krishna. We see in that 6th verse, in the first chapter of Adi Lila, Shri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kidri Shovanaiva. He wants to understand the glories of Radha's love. Svadhyena Adbhuta Madhurima, Adbhuta Madhurima, the astonishing sweet qualities in him that only Krishna, that only Shri Radhika perceives. Mahaprabhu is Krishna, but with the Bhav and Kanti of Shri Radhika. And then the third desire he has, that's expressed in that 6th verse, Sokyam Kasyam Mad Anubhavitam. Kitrisho vati lobat, tad bhavadya samajini sachigarbo sindhu harindu. This sokyam, this happiness that Sri Radha experiences by receiving the sweetness of his love for her. So this bliss that Sri Radhika tastes, this Adiruddha Mahabhav, is higher than Krishna experiences. Krishna wants to taste that. So this is his inner desire. So this whole Caitanya Caritamrta is centralized around Mahaprabhu fulfilling that desire. So in this Rath Yatra festival, he's tuning into the moods of the gopis in Kurukshetra, wanting to bring him back to Vrindavan. Mahaprabhu in his heart is acting like a gopi in front of Jagannath. Jagannath is like Krishna. And in front of Jagannath, he's having the mood of a gopi, and he wants to bring Jagannath back to Vrindavan. That's why he was singing that verse. And Rupa Goswami understood that. But the remarkable thing is that practically none of the other devotees there could understand that until Rupa Goswami himself, in the assembly that's described in the Madhya-lila chapter 1, begins to reveal the confidential topics of his scriptures, of his Vidagdha Madhav, his Lalita Madhav, and the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, these beautiful descriptions that he's giving of the teaching, the heart of Mahaprabhu. So this is where we've arrived at. We've arrived at this place where the last verse we read, which was verse 80, thus meeting with Krishna and thinking of the Vrindavan atmosphere, Radharani longed for Krishna to take her to Vrindavan again, to fulfill her desire in that calm atmosphere. This was the last verse we read. So see how extraordinarily beautiful this Madhya-lila is beginning to demonstrate, unfolding here right now. We've immediately practically entered the realm of Vrindavan, the Vrindavan part, because Mahaprabhu's heart is filled with Vrindavan. This is what he wants to taste. In Mahaprabhu's Astakalya Lila internally, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes, he wakes up in the morning, what's the first thing he's thinking and meditating on? He's thinking of Nishanta Lila. This is his Astakalya Lila. It's Nishanta Lila. Mahaprabhu is thinking like that. So Mahaprabhu is Krishna directly, but with the Bhav and Kanti of Sri Radhika. So this is how we're proceeding through. So we've come to verse 81.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ahuscha Tatnalina Nava Padaravindam Yogeshwarai Hridi Vinchintyam Akada Bodahai Samsara Kupa Patitodharana Valambam Geham Jusam Api Manasya Udiyat Sadana.
This is a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 82nd chapter, verse 48. The gopis spoke thus, Dear Lord, whose navel is just like a lotus flower, your lotus feet are the only shelter for those who have fallen into the deep well of material existence. Your feet are worshipped and meditated upon by great mystic yogis and highly learned philosophers. We wish that these lotus feet may also be awakened within our hearts, although we are only ordinary persons engaged in household affairs. So the gopis, of course, their higher identity is covered by Yogamaya. They are eternal Shaktis, all of them, of Krishna directly, but their eternal identity, for the sake of the pastimes, has been covered. So they are demonstrating these extraordinary moods of attraction to Krishna in the identity of simple cowherd girls. This is their identity that they are relating to. And they all have husbands. Most of them have husbands, etc. and families. So the whole demonstration of the Braj Bhav is the exhibition of parakya, which is sociably so contradictory to what a respectable person will want to hear about in this material world. So it's such a contradiction. It's like, for example, in South India, where they're very Pakka Vaishnavas. It's very hard for them to accept this parakya ras. And in fact, Mahaprabhu's teachings did not penetrate so deeply in that South Indian land. It was much more Aishwarya. But by the teachings of Srila Rupa Goswami and Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who came from the south to Vrindavan, by the 6 Goswamis' teachings, then the conceptions of parakya was deeply embedded in the north of India. Not so much in the south, but then in recent years, of course, those moods have flourished in the south of India. So now we come to text 82.
Tomara charanamora vraja putra gare udaya kariya yadi tabe vanchapore.
Translation. The gopis thought, "Dear Lord, if your lotus feet again come to our home in Vrindavan, our desires will be fulfilled." Yes, this is what they're saying at Kurukshetra. Because we're describing the Rath Yatra. These are the pastimes in Puri. This is where we've reached in the timeline, so to speak, of the activities of Mahaprabhu, his movements. Purport. In his Anubhasya, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments, "The gopis are purely engaged in the service of the Lord without motive." So you see, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati sprinkles throughout his writings and teachings the pastimes of the gopis, knowing that these sprinkles will be enough for those sincere, thoughtful sadhaks who have understood what is the manobishta of Mahaprabhu, what is the essential bhakti sa, what is the essence of his mission in this world, is to give us this gopi bhav, this gopi prem, not Krishna prem. They are not, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati continues, they are not captivated by the opulence of Krishna, nor by the understanding that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is such a contradiction from the traditional sadhaks previously. They were always focusing on that Supreme Personality of Godhead. This was their... That's all right, don't worry about it. They were always focusing on inspiring their love for Krishna in servitude or in dasyaras, but more of a Vaikuntha mood. But Mahaprabhu has come to give the madhurya of Braj, this speciality of Braj, where Krishna's Aishwarya is not highlighted, it's not accentuated. We've explained many times that actually there is more Aishwarya in Braj, but it's covered with such an immensity of sweetness. This madhurya, it's submerged between that below that sweetness. So what actually comes out is that they are worshipping just this cowherd boy, Krishna, as their son or their lover or their dear friend, but not as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This takes time and practice to change this conception from the heart. The sadhak is praying from the core of his heart to be connected with that supreme potency, that supreme Lord. So it requires expert delivery, expert teaching, expert guidance to actually come to these conceptions. And these experts, the first expert, of course, is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, and then all his parikas coming afterwards, who are, many of them, gopis formally, because they're all Nitya Siddha parikas. We describe that in the 11th, 12th and 13th chapter of the Adi-lila, the branches and the tree. in the Adi-lila, they're practically all described as parikas, eternal Nityasiddha parikas. So the gopis are not captivated by the opulence of Krishna, nor by the understanding that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Naturally, the gopis were inclined to love Krishna, for he was an attractive young boy of Vrindavan village. Being village girls, they were not very much attracted to the field of Kurukshetra, where Krishna was present with elephants, horses, and royal dress. Indeed, they did not very much appreciate Krishna in that atmosphere. Krishna was not attracted by the opulence. Krishna was not attracted by the opulence or personal beauty of the gopis, but by their pure devotional service. It's the pure devotional service that supersedes any kind of external opulence, of mystic potency, of great palaces like in Dwarka, etc., palaces of gold. Vishwakam, he manifested that Dwarka city, and so much gold palaces are described in the 10th canto in that city. But that was not what is attracting the simple village girls. They just wanted the heart of Krishna, which is separate to anything externally opulent. Indeed, they did not very much appreciate Krishna in that atmosphere. Krishna was not attracted by the opulence or personal beauty of the gopis, but by their pure devotional service. So this is the heart of it. What's that? Bhaktyamam abhijananti yavan yaschasmi tatvataha. Krishna is only attracted and accessed, tesham sadatam yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam, only attracted by devotional service, pure devotional service. Similarly, the gopis were attracted to Krishna as a cowherd boy, not in sophisticated guise. Lord Krishna is inconceivably powerful. To understand him, great yogis and saintly persons give up all material engagements and meditate upon him. Similarly, those who are overly attracted to material enjoyment, to enhancement of material opulence, to family maintenance, or to liberation from the entanglements of this material world, take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But such activities and motivations are unknown to the gopis. They are not at all expert in executing such auspicious activities. Already transcendently enlightened, they simply engage their purified senses in the service of the Lord in the remote village of Vrindavan. The gopis are not interested in dry speculation, in the arts, in music, or other conditions of material life. They are bereft of all understanding of material enjoyment and renunciation, completely in their spiritual consciousness, yet their identity is within this material world. They are bereft of all understanding of material enjoyment and renunciation. Their only desire is to see Krishna return and enjoy spiritual transcendental pastimes with them. The gopis want him simply to stay in Vrindavan so that they can render service unto him for his pleasure. There is not even a tinge of personal sense gratification. So this part that we're discussing, as I've said previously, is the Rath Yatra festival. This is the heart of the mood of the Rath Yatra festival, which Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj is giving us straight away. The very heart of that glorious festival that we have millions of people, sometimes 3, 4, 5 million people, as many as 8 million people attend that Rath Yatra festival. And how many of them are actually understanding the real inner mood of this Rath Yatra festival? These are the teachings that Krishnadas Kaviraj is sharing with us now at this point. Text 83.
Bhagavatara shloke gudharata vishada karina rupa goshani shloka kaile loka bhuja haive.
In one verse, Srila Rupa Goswami has explained the confidential meaning of the verse of Srimad Bhagavatam for the understanding of the general populace. Text 84. Yatte lila rasa parimalangari vanya parita
Danya Shoni Vilasita Vrita Maturi Maduribi Tatramasis Chatula Pashupi Bhav Mukhantara Baibi Sambitastvam Kalaya Vadanolasi Venu Viharam.
The gopis continued, "My dear Krishna, the fragrance of the mellows of your pastimes is spread throughout the forests of the glorious land of Vrindavan, which is surrounded by the sweetness of the direct Mathura, of the district of Mathura. In the congenial atmosphere of that wonderful land, you may enjoy your pastimes with your flute dancing on your lips and surrounded by us, the gopis, whose hearts are always enchanted by the unpredictable, ecstatic emotions." So this is the sort of mood that our beloved Rupa Goswami has captured. And this is what he's writing in Lalit Madhav. And this is all the inner meaning of the Rath Yatra festival. Text 85. E Mata Mahaprabhu Deki Jagannath Subhadra Sahita Deki Vamsi Nahi Hata. In this way, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw Jagannath, he saw that the Lord was with his sister Subhadra and was not holding a flute in his hand. Text 86. Tribanga Sundara Braja Brajenda Nandana Kahan Pava E Vancha Bade Anukshana. Translation. Absorbed in the ecstasy of the gopis, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wished to see Lord Jagannath in his original form as Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, just like the gopis did. The gopis only wanted to see Krishna. That was the build-up. That's what we just heard previously. Standing in Vrindavan and appearing very beautiful, his body curved in 3 places, his desire to see that form was always increasing. Completely the mood of the gopis. He's already had darshan, seen, spent time with Ramananda Rai. He's already woken up this Sakhi Bhav. Text 87. Radhika unmadayache udava darshane udkurna palapateche prabhura ratridine. Translation. Just as Srimati Radharani talked inconsistently with a bumblebee in the presence of Uddhav, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his ecstasy, talked crazily and inconsistently day and night. So just keep the context in mind. We're discussing, this is the Madhya 1. Krishnadas Kaviraj is giving us a synopsis of his Puri pastimes, which is principally what the devotees requested him to do, because Vrindavan Das Thakur had not given this explanation of his Puri pastimes. This is what the Vaishnavas, the devotees, they were hungry to hear. These pastimes. So Krishnadas Kaviraj is beginning in this Madhya-lila to give those. Purport. This unmad, madness, is not ordinary madness. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talked inconsistently, almost like a crazy fellow, he was in the transcendental ecstasy of love. In the highest transcendental ecstasy, there is a feeling of being enchanted by the presence of the enchanter. When the enchanter and the enchanted become separated, mohan, or bewilderment, occurs. So we have madan, that's meeting, and we have mohan, which is separation. So we have madan mohan, which is meeting and separation. So this mohan, because Mahaprabhu, I've mentioned many times, my Gurudev has explained that when Mahaprabhu takes that renounced order, he practically, for the whole 24 years, is tasting a mood of vipralamba, of separation from Radhika, from Krishna rather. He is in a mood of Radha, but he's tasting separation from Krishna, but he never actually sees Krishna. Once or twice there's a fragrance, but for most of those last 24 years, he's in desperate separation, which is what Radhika was experiencing from Krishna. Mohan, or bewilderment, occurs. When so bewildered due to separation, one becomes stunned And at that time, all the bodily symptoms of transcendental ecstasy are manifested. When they are manifest, one appears inconceivably crazy. What are those bodily symptoms? We see the extremity of those when Mahaprabhu is tasting that Mohan Akya Mahabha, that highest state of separation, when he becomes like a tortoise. All his limbs come into his body. He's foaming at the mouth. He becomes like a tortoise when he falls in the ocean, and his limbs become elongated, so that these extraordinary exhibitions of Astasatvika bhavs in the body of Mahaprabhu. He can't tolerate these moods, which is exactly what Sri Radhika tells him when he wants to taste her bhav. She tells him, you will not be able to tolerate my moods. So he can't tolerate those moods, and his body can't tolerate it. It exhibits these extraordinary, unnatural features. So the body's not able to tolerate it. This is called transcendental madness. It is, in this state, there is imaginative discourse, and one experiences emotions like those of a madman. We see in this Brahmaraki that is being referenced here, the bumblebee, in front of Uddhav, this Chitra Jalpa, this Ala-Jalpa, this Sun Jalpa, Parijalpa, Vijalpa. These 10 Jalpas are expressed at that time. The madness of Srimati Radharani is explained to Krishna by Uddhav, who said, my dear Krishna, because of extreme feelings of separation from you, Srimati Radharani is sometimes making her bed in the groves of the forest, sometimes rebuking a bluish cloud, and sometimes wandering about in the dense darkness of the forest. Thus she has become like a crazy woman in love. These are the symptoms of divine love for the Lord. And this is what Mahaprabhu wants to taste. This is what Mahaprabhu's pastimes are about. Text 88.
Dvadasat vatsara shesha aiche gonala e mata shesha lila tri vidhana kaila.
Translation. The last 12 years of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu were passed in this transcendental craziness. Thus he executed his last pastimes in 3 ways. So this first chapter is a synopsis, as we've said, and Krishna's Kaviraj is covering all the main points, main topics. Text 89.
Sanyasa karecha bisa vatsara kaila ye karma ananta aparatara ke janiba marma.
For the 24 years after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the renounced order, whatever pastimes he executed were unlimited and unfathomable. Who can understand the purport of such pastimes? Text 90.
Udesha karita kori digdarshana makya mukya lilara kari sutra ganana.
Translation. Just to indicate those pastimes, I am presenting a general survey of the chief pastimes in the form of a synopsis. I very much appreciate the way Krishna's Kaviraj methodically walks through these chapters, showing us exactly what he's doing, how he's erecting this like framework for what he's going to fill in with later on. So it becomes very easy to enter this topic. Text 91.
Pratama sutra prabhura sanyasa karana sanyasa kari kalila prabhu se Sri Vrindavan.
Translation. This is the first synopsis. After accepting the sannyas order, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu proceeded to Vrindavan. Purport. Clearly, these statements are the real account of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's acceptance of the renounced order of life. His acceptance of this renounced order is not at all comparable to the acceptance of sannyas by the Mayavadis. After accepting sannyas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to reach Vrindavan. He was unlike the Mayavad sannyasis who desired to merge into the existence of the Absolute. For a Vaishnava, acceptance of sannyas by Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.225. Anakshatasya vishayan yatarham upaya jataha nirbandanda Krishna sambandha yuktam vairagyam uchyate. For a Vaishnava, the renounced order means completely giving up attachment for material things and engaging non-stop in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The Mayavadi sannyasis, however, do not know how to engage everything in the service of the Lord because they have no devotional training. They think material objects to be untouchable. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. The Mayavadis think that the world is false, but the Vaishnava sannyasis do not think like this. Vaishnavas say, why should the world be false? It is reality, and it is meant for the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In any condition, that living entity is a servant of God. Jivara Sarupori Krishna Nitidas. He's eternally a servant of God in any condition. So in this material condition, we are also hungry for seva to that Supreme Lord in one way or another, 24 hours a day. It's non-stop because that's our eternal identity. But because we're made of this Tatashta Shakti, we can be covered by the allurement of material desires in the Bahiranga Shakti. For a Vaishnava sannyasi, renunciation means not accepting anything for personal sense enjoyment. Devotional service means engaging everything for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Every ounce of our energy should only be focused in any condition. Sannyas is the condition for any serious devotee. It doesn't have to be the vesh, doesn't have to be the dress of a sannyas. In any condition, this same mood, this same mentality of waking up our eternal identity as an eternal servant of the Lord. Text 92.
Premate vivala bahya nahika smarana radha deshatina dina karila pramana.
Translation. When proceeding towards Vrindavan, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was overwhelmed with ecstatic love for Krishna, and he lost all remembrance of the external world. In this way, he traveled continuously for 3 days in Radhadesh, the country where the Ganges River does not flow. So now we've backed up a bit. The first part of this Madhya-lila was going very quickly through an overview, so a survey, Krishnadas Kaviraj describes, of his activities in those final 24 years. Now he's focusing more one step at a time. When he first takes sannyas, he's gone back a little bit. So this is when Mahaprabhu has first taken sannyas in Katwa, and he's gone into Radhadesh, and he's completely become absorbed and overwhelmed in love for Krishna, in a mood of Radha. But that mood for Radha is not fully manifested yet, because he hasn't yet been to Godavari. Text 93.
Nityananda Prabhu Mahaprabhu Bulaya Ganga Tire Lana Aila Yamuna Balia.
Translation. First of all, Lord Nityananda bewildered Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by bringing him along the banks of the Ganges, saying that it was the river Jamuna. So we're going to get this pastime soon in this Madhya-lila. Text 94.
Shantipura Acharya Grihe Agamana Pratame Pakshi Bhiksha Kaile Tahan Ratra Sankirtana.
After 3 days, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to the house of Advaita Acharya in Shantipur and accepted alms there. This was his first acceptance of alms. At night he performed congregational chanting there. So all this is interlinked. It was Advaita Acharya who called him, and it's Nityananda who accompanied him in his ecstatic desire to go to Vrindavan straight after the renounced order. And then he was brought back by the tricks of Nityananda to the house of Advaita Acharya in Shantipur. Purport. It appears that in his transcendental ecstasy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu forgot to eat for 3 continuous days. He was then misled by Nityananda Prabhu, who said that the river Ganges was the Jamuna, because the Lord was in the ecstasy of going to Vrindavan. He was engladdened to see the Jamuna, although in actuality the river was the Ganges. In this way the Lord was brought to the house of Advaita Prabhu in Shantipur after 3 days, and he accepted food there. As long as the Lord remained there, he saw his mother Sachi Devi, and every night executed congregational chanting with all the devotees. So this whole pastime will be fully opened out in the preceding chapters. Text 95. Mata Bhakta Ganeratahan Karila Milan Sarva Sambandana Kari Koila Niladrikaman. At the house of Advaita Prabhu, he met his mother as well as all the devotees from Mayapur. He adjusted everything and then went to Jagannath Puri. What did he adjust? He had to adjust the emotional turmoil that the devotees were feeling and expressing in seeing him shaved of his beautiful locks of hair, and in the sannyas ashram, which meant separation from all of them. And Mahaprabhu had to adjust the situation and their hearts and settle them. It was devastating for them. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew very well that his acceptance of sannyas was a thunderbolt for his mother, a complete thunderbolt. This had to be adjusted. He therefore called for his mother and the devotees from Mayapur, and by the arrangement of Sri Advaita Acharya, he met them for the last time after his acceptance of sannyas. His mother was overwhelmed with grief when she saw that he was clean-shaven. There was no longer any beautiful hair on his head. Mother Sachi was pacified by all the devotees, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked her to cook for him because he was very hungry, not having taken anything for 3 days. But he took it at Vaitracharya's house. His mother immediately agreed, and forgetting everything else, she cooked for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during all the days, and she was at the house of Advaita Acharya Prabhu. Then after a few days, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested his mother's permission to go to Jagannath Puri. At his mother's request, he made Jagannath Puri his headquarters after his acceptance of sannyas. He asks his mother where he should go after he's taken sannyas, and Sachimata requests him to go to Jagannath Puri because so many people every year are going to Jagannath Puri and coming back again. So she knew she would be in touch with her dearmost son through all the different devotees traveling up and down to Jagannath Puri. And everyone came, the whole of Navadvip came to the house of Advaita Acharya to celebrate with the devotee. There was a great festival, and Sita Thakurani, she cooked, and Sachimata, she cooked for all the devotees. But there was one person who couldn't come. Even the dogs could come. Everybody could come except one person, Vishnu Priya. She couldn't come. And she remained at home in Mayapur. In that place in Mayapur, she remained there. So everyone else could come except Vishnu Priya, just a 16-year-old girl, practically 15-year-old, 16-year-old girl, very young. And her husband just left. So this was devastating. Burshakti. Thus everything was adjusted, and with his mother's permission, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu proceeded towards Jagannath Puri. On the way towards Jagannath Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed many other pastimes. He visited various temples and heard the story about Madhavendra Puri and the installation of Gopal. Purport. This Madhava Puri is Madhavendra Puri. Another Madhava Puri is Madhavacharya, who was the spiritual master of a devotee in the line of Gadadhar Pandit, and who wrote a book known as Sri Mangal Bhasya. Madhavacharya, however, is different from Madhavendra Puri, who is mentioned in this verse. So we'll stop here for today, and we'll continue these pastimes. So understand the mood and the gift of Krishnadas Kaviraj, what he's giving us here, and the way he's giving it systematically. This chapter is described as the later pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and it's a synopsis in this Madhya-lila 1. It's quite lengthy, but Krishnadas Kaviraj wasn't sure he was going to be able to complete it. He was already feeble with old age. His hands were trembling. His eyes were becoming dim. He wasn't sure he was going to have the capacity to actually write all these truths he had heard from Raghunath and from Sanatan and from Rupa. And he wasn't sure that he was going to be able to complete it. So he's writing this synopsis of the Madhya-lila, just so the Vaishnavas will get a glimpse. They'll get a picture, which Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur didn't include in his Bhagavat, in his Chaitanya Bhagavat. So we'll stop there at verse 97. We'll start again tomorrow and we'll continue. Shri Caitanya Caritamrta ki jai. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Tirabhav ki jai. Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Gau Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Sachinandana Gaura Hari Ki Jai, Gau Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.